Welcome back to The Unseen Hand, where we dive deep into the shadows of unsolved crimes, conspiracies, and the darkest corners of history. Today, we're unraveling the chilling, unsolved murder of Beverly Lynn Smith. In 1974, the young mother's life was brutally cut short in her own home, leaving behind a terrified baby and a mystery that has remained unsolved for decades. What dark secrets lie behind the tragic death of Beverly Lynn Smith? Who could be responsible? Grab your detective hats, folks, as we journey back to Ontario in the 1970s and try to uncover the truth. Before we begin, let's set the scene. It's May 28, 1974, in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. Beverly Lynn Smith, a 22-year-old woman with a bright future, is found shot dead in her kitchen. The most heart-wrenching part of this tragedy: her 10-month-old baby was sleeping just a room away, completely unharmed. The senselessness of this crime shocked the community and left the authorities with a case that seemed impossible to solve. As the investigation began, authorities discovered that Beverly had been shot twice with a .22 caliber weapon, with one bullet striking her in the head and the other in the chest. There were no signs of forced entry, which led investigators to believe that Beverly likely knew her killer. But with no concrete evidence, the case went cold, leaving the family and the community with more questions than answers. Over the years, several theories and potential suspects emerged, but no one was ever formally charged or convicted in Beverly's murder. Let's examine some of the possible motives and people who may have been involved. One of the first persons of interest was Beverly's husband, Doug Smith. As is common in many investigations, spouses are often considered as potential suspects. In this case, however, there was no concrete evidence linking him to the crime, and he maintained his innocence. Beverly's husband, Doug Smith, was selling marijuana at the time of the murder. He was at work on December 9, 1974, when he called to check in on Beverly and their infant daughter, Rebecca. When Beverly didn't answer the phone, Doug called one of his customers who lived in the neighborhood to check on his family. The neighbor peeked through a window and saw Beverly lying on the kitchen floor. Later, investigators would realize the only thing missing from the home was 6 ounces of Doug's marijuana. Another theory is that Beverly had a jealous lover who couldn't bear the thought of her moving on with her life. If she had recently ended a relationship, her ex-partner might have acted out of passion and rage. Some speculated that Beverly's murder was the result of a drug deal gone wrong. Oshawa, like many cities in the 1970s, was dealing with an increase in drug-related crimes. Was Beverly involved in something she shouldn't have been, or was she simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? Neighbors reported seeing an unfamiliar man in the area around the time of the murder. Could this stranger have been Beverly's killer? Perhaps he was a hitman, or maybe he was just a drifter who stumbled upon Beverly's home and saw an opportunity for violence. Lastly, some have suggested that Beverly's murder might be the work of a serial killer. This theory remains a possibility, as several other unsolved murders in the region bear some similarities to Beverly's case. With so many unanswered questions, some have begun to wonder if there was a cover-up or conspiracy at play in Beverly's case. Was crucial evidence overlooked or intentionally ignored? Did the police fail to follow up on leads, or were they protecting someone within their ranks? These questions linger, casting doubt on the investigation and fueling speculation about what really happened to Beverly Lynn Smith. Police were revisiting an old connection when they zeroed in on a neighbor, Alan Smith. It was Alan and Linda Smith whom Doug called from work to check on his wife and child that night in 1974. In 2007, an interview with an old friend of Alan's led police to interview Linda, though the couple was long since divorced. Linda's story about the night of the murder had changed somewhat, and she told authorities that Alan had actually been out of the house for about an hour the night Beverly was found dead. Frustrated with no results, the authorities plotted an elaborate Mr. Big Sting in an attempt to get Alan to confess to Beverly's murder. Mr. Big Stings are a controversial police tactic where undercover officers develop an entire fake criminal enterprise and draw the target into the scheme by befriending him or her and slowly involving them in escalating fake crimes. As the target gets more enmeshed with the fake criminal activity, they are eventually taken to see another undercover officer who is posing as a high-ranking gang member or drug kingpin, the Mr. Big. At that point, the undercover officers attempt to get the target to confess to a prior crime in order to gain credibility within the fake criminal organization. In Alan's case, an undercover officer inserted himself into Alan's life in 2009 as a fishing buddy who introduced him to an elaborate marijuana operation. Alan, who later said he was afraid he would be killed by the fictitious Mr. Big, confessed to killing Beverly, though he got several of the key details wrong. Ultimately, Alan was arrested and charged with Beverly's murder and went to trial in 2014. But a judge ruled that the confessions elicited during the Mr. Big Sting were coerced and inadmissible in court. Around the same time, a Canadian Supreme Court decision in another case ruled that Mr. Big Stings were likely to elicit a false confession. With the confessions thrown out and no evidence linking Allen to the crime, he was acquitted. The case remains unsolved to this day. As the years have passed, Beverly's family, friends, and the community have continued to seek answers and justice for her senseless murder. While the case remains unsolved, the memory of Beverly Lynn Smith is kept alive by those who knew and loved her. The impact of her loss continues to ripple through the community, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that can lurk just around the corner. The chilling story of Beverly Lynn Smith's unsolved murder serves as a reminder that even in the quietest neighborhoods, evil can strike without warning. The search for her killer continues, with each new piece of evidence or witness account providing hope that one day, justice will be served. Will the truth ever come to light? Was there a cover-up or conspiracy at play? And who could have committed this heinous crime? The answers may still be out there, waiting to be discovered. Until then, the case of Beverly Lynn Smith remains one of Ontario's most haunting unsolved mysteries. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Unseen Hand. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the shadows of Beverly Lynn Smith's murder, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. And as always, stay vigilant and keep seeking the truth.